101.7 FM and 710 Keel. Robert and Aaron in the morning. Greg Adams in for Robert. Aaron is here. She's playing hurt. A little bit of dental work, making the S's a little more difficult.
So you're going to make me introduce him, aren't you?
Absolutely. This is a huge interview.
He has no S's in his name.
No.
Oh, wait, his new title.
His job does, though. So
State.
Some people may have, a name for me that includes S's, but
Yeah, you got a point.
I'll let you go on there.
I won't call your name dumbass like I did the lieutenant governor because you don't have S's in it. State Superintendent of Education, Dr.Cade Brumley. Can I raise the roof? Woohoo! Wow.
Oh, thanks. Glad to be with you guys.
You're in a big chair, and that chair is on fire. It is a hot seat. What's, top three priorities, I guess, is the first way to start.
Well, Aaron, I don't think I can start without just thanking my 318 family, for helping and supporting me to get into this role. As a young kid who always wanted to be an educator, this is, a dream of a lifetime to be able to do this. And from the Bessie members up our way, Tony Davis, Ashley Ellis, Tommy Rock, to the senators, Milligan, Peacock, Tarver, Bernard, all those guys were just so super supportive and just glad to be in the role.
Have we ever had a superintendent from this area before? I was thinking back in my many years, and I can't recall one.
No, that you had the one period of time where Ms. Tyler served as the interim acting superintendent for, I believe, a short period of time, but I'm not aware other than that.
Okay, you can't be taking over in any more troubled times, I guess. Does that bother you a little bit? Are you ready for the challenge? It's obviously a challenge.
Well, I mean, I don't know of anyone that can claim they're ready for this challenge, but I certainly have been trying to prepare myself in the best way I can to do this role. You asked me about some of the top challenges or opportunities. For me, I think number one is just trying to ensure that students across the state can get back to school, amidst COVID. Our students need to be in school. That's the ultimate goal, and I think you have a spectrum of fully congregate back in the buildings all the way to fully remote with stops in between. But for our economy to get back rolling, we need kids in school.
We missed the end of the spring semester. We didn't do testing, and we're hearing a lot from different superintendents around the state, including Dr. Gorey here, that the school this fall may be kind of a hybrid. Is that something you're going to have to consider for statewide, or is it going to be up to the parishes to decide how they return?
Well, I think that's a fair question, and I think it's something that we have to weigh out. It could be, and it could look, different in different places. You have some very urban systems that look very different from some very rural systems. And so I just think that as a State Department of Education, we're going to have to put out pretty clear guidance and suggestions and menus of options and work with local systems to make sure that the best decisions are made for kids.
now there's a lot of budget concerns right now with states and their schools as well. The federal government's looking to help. Do we know what that looks like as far as Louisiana goes? Is there going to be help for our schools coming from the feds?
Yeah, so school systems have already received a significant dollar amount based on their population and the amount of students that they have that are from certain socioeconomic status factors. And so I know school systems around the state are using that money to make sure that they are, one, prepared from a technology standpoint in terms of devices going into next year, but also really looking at instructional recovery. I've always been really concerned about the summer learning loss for students in that period of time. And, what we essentially have is basically 2 summers stacked on top of each other at once before kids hopefully are able to come back to school.
With that, are we looking at potentially, and this may be something we have to reevaluate down the road, it may be too early to talk about, is this something that could hinder this generation of students long term with having these 2 summers stacked on top of each other?
Yes, and that's why I think educators and community leaders have to be really thoughtful of making sure that we're getting the students the education that they deserve. I think from the beginning we have to look at what does recovery look like, and from there, I think once students are able to return to our buildings, we need to really take a look at where they stand in terms of where they are academically and pick them up where they are and move them forward. But I do think it's naive to think that this has not had some form of an impact.
Cade, I'm sorry, Dr. Brumley.
Yep.
I need to be a little more formal here because you're the head honcho now.
I'd rather you if you're going to call me something, just call me for dinner.
I have a lot of teacher friends, as you know, and they will tell me that online learning, they will tell me it was a dismal failure. Kids did not participate, parents didn't make them participate, and it didn't matter. If we have to have a hybrid that involves online learning, what can we do differently to make sure that the kids participate? And knowing that in a area like Shreveport, we have technological issues.
Yeah. Well, you have them, rural systems have them. Look, in Jefferson Parish, where I've been over the past 2 years, we have 51,000 students, and we have them here as well. We have to make sure, one, we have devices. We have to figure out the harder piece, which is connectivity for all students to the net. And then we also have to figure out, like, how do we train our educators and give them the training that they need and deserve, because it's different, to have 25 kids in front of you versus 25 kids across a computer screen. But also, I think that whenever this situation hit in the spring, for the most part, systems had to make this work optional for students because they could not assure that every single child had the ability to do the work. So if you go into the school year having to be remote, I don't think option is an option. I mean, I think you have to look at truancy laws and attendance laws and make sure that those things are in place to ensure that students are participating, and there has to be parent and school accountability for making sure that happens.
Unfortunately, we've got some schools locally who sound like they may end up closing due to what's going on right now. Is that going to be something that we see isolated to the Arklatex, or is that something that may happen statewide now?
Yeah, another part of this piece, and you mentioned it earlier, is just the financial recovery. Our economy has been stalled out to some degree since March. Here in Jefferson, the system I've been leading, we did roughly $16 million worth of expenditure reductions in March, and we're looking to do another round now. Just trying to live within means. And so I suspect that, every school system or every non-public, private charter will be looking at their spending and looking at their incoming revenue and expecting some declines and, having to make decisions based on that.
Cade, what is your message to teachers today as the new superintendent?
Yeah, well, I mean, first, Aaron, I would just say, like, the outpouring of support I received prior to the selection from teachers was, pretty tremendous, and I was humbled by that. I would suggest to teachers that I know of no harder job than being an effective classroom teacher. Anyone can get a set of keys and a desk, but like actually knowing where a kid is academically, picking them up, moving them a year instructionally for a year's worth of work at a minimum is just crazy hard, and building relationships. And so what I would share with teachers is, they will have a voice. I will elevate that voice, and I will edify to all degrees possible within my abilities the work of the teacher.
Same question, but to superintendents. What should school superintendents hear today, knowing all these challenges moving forward?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's a time, where we can just sit back and think it's business as usual. Like, as educational leaders, we have to take this moral and educational responsibility very seriously right now, to know that we're going to have to be innovative, creative, passionate, and act with urgency, because our students really need it now, maybe more than ever in the past few years. And sadly, in our communities that most need us, that's where we're going to have to push in the hardest.
Okay, Cade, let me see if I can say CDC. Okay, that's not bad. CDC guidelines for returning to school are pretty strict. One kid, I'm sure you're aware, one kid on a row on a school bus, desks 6 feet apart. It sounds almost impossible. Do you see those as guidelines, or do you see those as things we're going to probably have to follow these?
Yeah, that's a good question, Aaron, and those are things we're going to have to weigh out as a state as we make decisions. The CDC guidelines basically take a 60 passenger bus and turn it into a 15 or 20 passenger bus, and even just with busing alone, I could come back to you with 15, 20, 30 different scenarios of what ifs. Mm-hmm. So we're certainly going to have to look at that guidance, take it into consideration. And always the safety of our students and staff, that's number one. But I think it's going to be important for the state as a department to be able to get out some guidance and a menu of options to our schools.
The bus situation alone is a deal breaker. I know in Caddo, as you well know, I mean, we don't have enough bus drivers as it is. That's going to be a statewide issue, right?
Oh, Aaron, yes, without a doubt. I mean, I can share with you, having worked in a rural suburban system and an urban system, in Jefferson today, during school, we're transporting 40,000 plus of our 51,000 kids every day. And that requires us with stacked routes to run about 300 buses, that's difficult to staff. Well, if you turn 60 passenger buses into 15 and 20 passenger buses, that creates a whole new set of problems that systems will have to deal with.
Spent a lot of time talking about COVID because, of course, it is the most pressing thing right now. But prior to this pandemic, Louisiana schools weren't on the most solid footing to begin with. So once we do move past this, what's next on the agenda? What is the biggest non-COVID agenda item for Dr. Cade Brumley moving into this position?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I think having been in the field, in the fight, a ton of good stuff has happened in Louisiana education over a period of time, but there's no doubt we still have a long way to go. That's why I'm excited about the work. I think that early childhood education is the most important educational challenge we'll face as a generation. I think making sure students can read by the end of third grade. I think making sure students are graduating career and college ready. Elevating career and technical education, vocational education, where people can go out and get a high-wage job. We've diminished that for too long. I think really investing in the teacher and building leadership capacity and principalship in the superintendency. I could go on and on. I think there are so many things that are areas of opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Cade Brumley, in case I lose my job today for calling Billy Nungesser's name dumbass, you have room in your communications department for someone who can barely speak?
Are you talking about Robert?
Oh, good idea. Dr. Cade Brumley, I love you. We wish you the best. The lines of communication are open with us, and we'd love to have you in studio anytime you're up in this area and don't have COVID.
Yep. Look, I'm 318 proud, and I look forward to being in the studio soon.
Absolutely. Dr. Cade Brumley, new Superintendent of Education for the state of Louisiana, right here, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel.